I think philosophy is one of the oldest disciplines, and it discusses, I think, the nature of the concepts that we use, and they change over history to some extent. And some of the people that you've interviewed or have done these talks would be rather ahistorical. Now, I began, I suppose, in that way of thinking, and I really got into philosophy when I studied Wittgenstein. So I'm a Wittgensteinian. At least Wittgenstein is the background to much of what I think, but also Kant. I think those two, particularly in aesthetics, it's more Kant than Wittgenstein. And both of those thinkers are really rather ahistorical. So just going back to the original definition, philosophy involves an examination of our fundamental concepts. And some philosophers think that an investigation like that will be ahistorical. It will not really make reference to historical developments. And other philosophers, and I suppose the most important of these would be Hegel, think that it's historical, and in fact Nietzsche and but I mean it's a bit strange because the philosophers that have influenced me have been ahistorical. They've been the main, and Wittgenstein and Kant. But actually I think they were wrong. I think Wittgenstein and Kant were wrong about this stress on, or this lack of interest in history. So, I have a rather sort of confused motivation, really, because the philosophers that have had the most influence on me, also I don't agree with on that question. Now, I'll just explain what I mean by historical, right? Okay, so that's very important to understand. And well, let me give an example. I'm interested in what is art, right? So that's one of the fundamental questions of aesthetics. I mean, the other fundamental question might be what is beauty or what is the aesthetic? But let's just think about the question, what is art? Well, if you look back through human history, then art did not always occupy the position it occupies now, because we have in Western society, we have a system of the arts. We have what the art historian Oscar Christella called a modern system of the arts. And this began after the Renaissance, after the European Renaissance, and it continues today. He thought that it really began in the 18th century, and it still continues. So when you're thinking about what is art, we think of art as, I say we, I mean people in the West, people in Europe, people in America. And I'll come on to that point later, because that's obviously very important. People in the West think of art in the context of a modern system of the arts where art includes things like music, drama, literature, painting, architecture, film, and things like that. Those are the arts. And so when you're thinking about what is art, well, that's in the background. But now, there is a problem here if you're ahistorical. That is, if you don't think that history is fundamental to philosophy, because this system did not exist until the European Renaissance. In Europe, other systems existed. For example, in Japan, you have a system called the Four Accomplishments, which are the kind of things that any gentleman would need to be skilled at. And they include things like handwriting, ceramics, painting, literature, I forget which ones they are, but they're not the same as the modern system of the arts. So that's a difference between Europe and Japan from the 18th century and later. But there's also obviously a difference historically, if you think about what the Greeks believed, because we are also interested in what Plato thought about art, and he wanted to banish the poets, and he thought there was a quarrel between philosophy and poetry, and what Aristotle thought, because Aristotle wrote on those questions too. And to understand what they thought, you've got to understand that they did not have a modern system of the arts. So there's no point in writing. I mean, there really is no point in writing about Plato and Aristotle and their views on art if you don't understand that they didn't have a word for it. The Greeks did not have a word for art in the modern European sense. And so you need to know something about the history of the concept. So I don't know what my colleagues think, if they think that history is irrelevant to aesthetics, for example, because you've got to know things like that. I mean, that is really fundamental. That's an example from aesthetics, right? But now art is a fundamental concept, and I'm not saying that art was not produced in Greece. And actually, recently I went to the Orkney Islands in the north of Scotland, and I went to Skara Brae, which is a Stone Age Neolithic settlement. And it's just quite amazing because it has, you know, domestic architecture, you could say, of the Stone Age, because these people crafted their dwelling places. They produced art in some sense. That is a kind of aesthetic crafting. In a society that is, you know, it's a fundamental thing that human beings do. They produce art, but you need to know that the way they think about it changes, and that's something philosophy needs to know. And if you're a philosopher doing philosophy of art, you've got to know about that. So let me that's one example, art. Another example would be memory, right? Now, let's think about the concept of memory. That's something I used to work on when I did a lot of work in philosophy of mind. And it seems to me that every human society must have a concept where they refer to things that I witnessed, on the one hand, and things that I heard about. Let's say somebody comes in here, beats you up and steals the camera, right? So, and I think, my goodness, is that part of the performance, or what's going on here, you know? So I saw it with my own eyes. That's one understanding, you know, that's one way in which I could remember some amazing event that happened. But another way might be that I just read that there was a robbery in the Vilnius philosophy department and a camera was stolen. I just read about it, right? So there are two ways that I could know about that, and there are two ways in which it could be said that I remember hearing about or I remember seeing, you know, right? So that's fundamental to the concept of memory, and that's not really historical. I find it hard to believe that would change. Surely any society would have those two ways of knowing about the past. But not every society has a way of understanding about art that we have in the West at the moment. So in some areas of philosophy, the historical element is very important, where human culture is very important. In other areas of philosophy, probably less important. But I think still the concept of memory must have changed. I'm working at the moment on dreaming, and the concept of dreams must have changed, has changed. And philosophers need to know about that. So this is a paradox, because if you're a philosopher who doesn't think that historical change is something that you can talk about, how are you going to explain the things I've just been mentioning? And it's puzzling to me, but neither Wittgenstein nor Kant seem to think about that. And why? And Wittgenstein ought to have thought about it, but he didn't, except for a very few comments he made about the historical evolution of or development of concepts. Let me say something about the history of philosophy. So you're asking, what is philosophy? Well, in one sense, it's got to be historically informed in the way that I suggested, because otherwise you can't answer these fundamental questions. But maybe you can answer other questions. Maybe that's, there are some areas of philosophy where you could avoid needing to think about history. But let me now say something about the history of philosophy, which is a sort of related question. Philosophy is a subject that has a history. And the history of philosophy is philosophy, right? So that needs to be understood. So that's the first thing that people don't always understand. So I'm now getting to the point where I think most philosophers today have gone completely wrong, and most of my colleagues are completely wrong about this. First of all, they don't recognize that the history of philosophy is philosophy, it's not history. I mean, in a sense, yes, it's historical, but it's not part of history, it's part of philosophy. The history of philosophy is philosophy. That's the first thing. Now, so a lot of people don't believe that. They think the history of philosophy is something you do at the weekend for relaxation. And during the rest of the time, you're professional, you do philosophy, and then you think occasionally, well, I guess the subject I do had a history, so I'll just read a bit about that. I mean, that is obviously mad, but that's what a lot of people believe. But worse than that, they don't realize that philosophy has to be historical in the way that I said. And I don't think any of my colleagues, well, I mean, some of my colleagues are interested in the history of philosophy, so they recognize that the history of philosophy is philosophy. But there are even fewer who understand that philosophy needs to be historically informed in the way that I suggested. So if you're asking me what is philosophy, well, it's a fundamental investigation about the concepts that we use. And because it's a fundamental investigation, it's not an empirical investigation in an orthodox way. It's not like the other sciences. Because it's not an empirical investigation, it's a conceptual investigation. It has a fundamental nature, but nonetheless, this needs to refer to the history of concepts and the history of the subject. If you study philosophy, you learn to be critical. And you learn not to take what people say at face value. For example, you learn not to take what politicians say at face value. And if you do political philosophy, you'll particularly learn not to take what they say at face value. But I think philosophy is, well, I mean, Kant called his philosophy the critical philosophy. Well, I think all philosophy should be critical, but Kant is obviously the paradigm of a critical philosophy, and philosophy is about criticism. And criticism is valuable and necessary. And you need, on the one hand, thinkers who construct systems and, create. And then you need, on the other hand, philosophers who are critical of those systems and critical of what people say. And that, I think, is the most important function. And that's what Socrates did. And he was executed for doing it in the end, because the state did not like people who were critical. Philosophers are critical, and that is the most important thing I think you learn from philosophy, is to be critical. And so that's the biggest value.